Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down two large winter storms that'll be impacting the United States over the next few days. And these winter storms will bring tons of impacts, including the potential of several feet of snow in some locations, including the northern plains and the northeast United States. In addition to this, we are watching for the threat of significant severe weather on both Sunday and Monday of this upcoming weekend into early next week, and this could bring all modes of severe weather, including damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening right now in the United States today that'll lead to these large storms in the United States. And we'll begin with the southeast, and this is an area that is actually very active right now. Notice we have a low pressure system centered over areas in Mississippi. We actually have a lot of thunderstorm activity, mostly in the Gulf of Mexico though. Notice back down just south and west of the Keys, there actually have been some storms over there that have been producing water spouts. We even had a tornado warning in the Florida Keys earlier. Most of this activity though is primarily showers and an isolated thunderstorm or two for those inland. So anywhere in Florida or even in the southeast, this low pressure system is bringing plenty of rainfall, but overall not any crazy severe weather for the most part inland here in the United States. But what this is also going to do is bring the potential for snow, and this is eventually going to become a significant winter storm as we go into tomorrow. This low pressure system is actually going to move northeast towards areas in the northeast United States, and with that being said, this low pressure system will intensify as it moves towards the east coast, and eventually we are going to see some pretty significant snowfall, especially in northern New England. Upwards of 1 to 2 feet of snow will be possible in some locations. Wouldn't even rule out an isolated location getting close to 30 inches of snow. We'll be talking about more details on this here in just a moment. And then back over on the west coast of the United States, this is our next large storm, perhaps the largest storm of March so far. This low pressure system is just off the coast of Oregon, and it's eventually going to move over the Rocky Mountains late tomorrow night, and eventually by Sunday we're going to be dealing with a dual threat of both a winter storm and a severe weather threat that could pretty easily be significant. All right, let's talk more about the two winter storms that are coming to the United States, and we'll be talking about that severe weather threat. Here are the watches and warnings across the country right now. We do still have winter storm warnings in effect at the time I'm recording this forecast for northern Illinois, but overall most of the snow activity will be moving out throughout the afternoon hours. Winter weather advisories in effect for most of New York and as well as even central Michigan. In addition to that, there are winter weather advisories in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and as well as even southern Maine. And in addition to this, we do have winter storm warnings in effect for most of northern New England, especially in the higher elevations where several feet of snow will be possible. And then back over into the northern tier of the country, this is another area that we're watching for late Saturday through Sunday and into Monday, where there will also be a chance for a few feet of snow across areas in Minnesota, Nebraska, South and North Dakota, Montana. I would expect this to expand a little bit, by the way. I do think areas like Wisconsin, perhaps even into northwest Iowa and much of Nebraska will be added at least into winter weather advisories, meaning there will be a chance for at least a few inches of snowfall as we go into primarily Sunday and as well as early Monday. All right, let's talk more about this first winter storm that'll be impacting areas in the northeast United States, because there will be a boatload of snow between now and tomorrow night. Notice this as we go into late this afternoon. We'll be dealing with light to moderate snowfall across western and upstate New York. Main concern here will be maybe an inch or two of snowfall per hour, but it really will ramp up overnight tonight, especially across central and northern New England, primarily north of the Massachusetts and New Hampshire border. That is where a lot of heavy snowfall will kick up by tomorrow morning. This is at 6 in the morning tomorrow. Reduced visibility is very likely, so take it very slow on the roadways, but notice again, moderate to heavy snowfall across a large chunk of northern New England, and this will accumulate very quickly. Now, for those in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, you're really going to have a very brief shot of snow. It should not last very long. Main reason why is because we'll have warmer air starting to push up to the north, and as well as more humid air. That'll allow for more of a transition to just purely a cold rain. By the time we go into the afternoon hours, the snow will be peaking at its heaviest around lunchtime. Notice that heavy snowfall across areas in western Maine and as well as northern New Hampshire. By the time we go into the late afternoon and evening hours, we'll also get another shot of very heavy snowfall on the backside of this low pressure system. Right there is where the heaviest pocket of snow will be, right around 6 to 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. And eventually, as we go into early Sunday, all that snow is out of here. So it's really primarily just tonight into tomorrow morning. What that means for your snowfall accumulation, well, it's going to be quite a bit, especially for this time of the year. We're talking about a widespread 1 to 2 feet of snowfall. That includes anywhere from central and southern New Hampshire all the way back back up through Maine. Now, areas right along the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border are going to vary more, between anywhere from like 2 inches of snow up to even 10 inches of snow. It really matters on where you are here. If you're further to the west and further north, that means you're going to have more snowfall overall, and then if you're closer to the shoreline, it's definitely going to be a lot less. Even in western New York, we're only going to be talking about maybe a few inches of snow, but definitely still meaningful snow. Might cause a little bit of travel impacts, and Rhode Island and Connecticut will basically be left with a goose egg when it comes to snowfall accumulation, unless you're in the very far northern side of the state. All right, let's talk more about that next winter storm that's going to be impacting the country as we go into late Saturday and Sunday. Notice what we're talking about this weekend is this low pressure system that is going to be coming over the Rocky Mountains, eventually into the Great Plains. And this particular storm is going to bring a boatload of snowfall anywhere from Wisconsin and Michigan all the way back into areas in the northern and central plains. By the time we go into Sunday evening, that snow will be heaviest across areas in southern Minnesota, back into South Dakota. By Monday morning, this low pressure system moves a little bit further to the north and east, allowing for most of the snow to be on the north and west side of this low pressure system. So anywhere from about Kansas, maybe even the Texas Panhandle, by the way, all the way back into areas like Wisconsin and as well as into Canada. By Monday afternoon, the snow becomes a lot lighter, maybe a little bit of moderate snow closer to Minnesota. And by the evening into Tuesday, that snow moves off to the north, and eventually by Wednesday, we are done talking about snowfall in the United States. And obviously, we're in March. This stuff doesn't happen too often, at least near the tail end of March. Definitely something that we do not see very often. So in terms of snowfall accumulation, beginning with the central plains, this might surprise you a little bit, but yes, there is a chance for snow all the way into the Texas Panhandle. Not much, maybe a coating to an inch, but back up in Nebraska, more meaningful snowfall, especially on the northern side of the state, where an isolated location or two could pick up as much as 1 foot of snow. And then further up to the north in the northern plains, there will be many areas across the Dakotas and Minnesota picking between 1 to 2 feet of snow as well. It'll be a little bit more isolated than the northeast, but notice this pocket right here back over in southwest Minnesota. There could even be an isolated location that gets a jackpot total near 30 inches of snow by the time we get closer to Tuesday afternoon. So there's gonna be a lot of snow over the next several days. Now, granted, this will be a much longer event than what's going to be happening in the northeast. This will begin Sunday all the way through Tuesday, so it's about a 3-day event comparatively to the northeast, where they're only going to be talking about that for maybe 24 to 36 hours at most. So just keep that in mind. Back over in the Midwest, this is what we already saw today, by the way, so just ignore that. What we're going to be talking about all the way through Tuesday will be primarily in western Wisconsin and Minnesota, where many areas will pick up over 6 inches of snow, but most areas in Wisconsin won't be any higher than 12 to 13 inches of snow. So overall, most areas between about 6 to 12 inches of snow. Back over in southern Wisconsin, a coating to maybe a couple inches possible, but that threat should be pretty low overall of seeing any significant accumulation at least. All right, let's talk more about that severe weather potential for the next several days, and we will begin with Sunday, which is Suspicious Storms Sunday. We do currently have a slight risk of severe weather from Kansas back into central and southern Oklahoma. Main concern here is all modes of severe weather, but the main concern will be damaging winds and large hail. A couple of tornadoes are possible, but the problem with Sunday's setup is that the dew points will not be very high, so the tornado risk is actually a bit lower than what it could be. And I mention that because if the dew points are about 7, 8, 9 degrees Fahrenheit greater than they currently are forecasted to be, this could actually be a little bit higher of a tornado risk overall. We could be talking about like a 10 to 15% tornado risk from the Storm Prediction Center, but I'm not expecting that. I'm just mentioning it in case you're a weather geek like me. That is actually something that could happen, but it's an extremely low chance at this point. Overall, main concern though, damaging winds, maybe a couple of tornadoes. There will also be some large hail. By Monday, the threat of severe weather will shift further down to the south. I do expect this entire area here to be under at least some sort of marginal threat of severe weather. That's at least what I'm forecasting, but at the bare minimum, anywhere in this area will have the potential for some damaging wind potential, maybe a little bit of isolated large hail, couple of tornadoes possible, but at this point, I'm not expecting really any sort of tornado outbreak at this point, but obviously be mindful, have multiple ways to receive alerts as we go into both Sunday and as well as Monday. Here's the future radar with the particular severe weather event. As we go into Sunday afternoon, we'll be watching for storms to fire up across the Texas Panhandle, back into Oklahoma and Kansas. These will move to the east and eventually into Monday morning. We'll be dealing with a cluster or a line of storms across Oklahoma and Texas. By the afternoon and evening hours, that moves into Louisiana and Arkansas, where there could be a slightly higher tornado risk. And then eventually going into Tuesday morning, those storms move across Mississippi, Alabama, and then Georgia, where severe weather will be a low-end threat as we go into Tuesday, and by Wednesday into Thursday, things dry out. And perhaps another large storm as we go into the later half of next week, but that remains very uncertain at this time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.